John Schuster's signing is seen as a real coup for the Knights. The next few weeks are do or die for the Newcastle team as far as the 90 season is concerned, and having the ranks bolstered by a player with a track record like the Speedy Centre is a big confidence booster. But today, some of the gloss was taken off the big move, with news Schuster is carrying a nagging hamstring injury. Reports from New Zealand have claimed it's affected his recent performances, but today coach Alan McMahon was playing down the news, saying he doubted the injury was too severe. But despite that casual attitude, no chances are being taken. Schuster will make a visit to the team doctor as soon as he sets foot in town to undergo a rigorous medical check, though McMahon insists at this stage he's still on target to make his debut against Canterbury on Sunday week. Meanwhile, the Knights have made a few vital changes in the lineup for this weekend's clash against reigning premiers Canberra Raiders. Despite carrying a troublesome shoulder injury, Michael Hagan has been named as captain. Back in also is Gary Worth after injury at the expense of Glenn Frendo, who's been relegated to the reserves bench. Tracy Reid, NBN News.
The hype used to sell new cars has taken on a sense of desperation in recent weeks as rival manufacturers engage in a cutthroat price-cutting war. Competition is fierce and it's the dealers who look like losing.
There are occasions when we even try and give cars away. It has been known that dealers will keep as much as $100 in a motor car to get the numbers or the targets that the factory have set them.
The tight economy has made it a buyer's market. Many families are choosing to trade two cars in on a bargain-priced new vehicle, leaving dealers with hard-to-shift used stock. In their desperation to keep new car sales high, they've slashed prices to used car levels.
But that strategy is beginning to backfire. One of the Hunter's leading wholesalers today described the state of the industry as the worst he's seen it in nearly 30 years. He refused to speak to our cameras, but in a telephone interview admitted several leading dealerships could fold in the near future.
The dealers who did agree to speak to us from Cardiff Toyota and Crossroads Mitsubishi both stressed their companies were coping well. They say it's the smaller scale operations that will be forced to the wall.
It appears that the market in the next 3 or 4 months is going to be a very, very tight one, specifically on used cars. And that obviously is going to rub off on the smaller dealers because the used car prices are coming down. And the reason for that, I guess, is there's so many new cars sold at cheaper prices.
The coach was making its usual Wednesday morning run between Newcastle and Dubbo when, a kilometre west of Branxton, things went horribly wrong. The bus skidded and an oncoming car was forced off the road and into a roadside ditch. Passengers in the car were left shaken by the incident and glad just to be alive.
Well, the bus tried to overtake a truck, right, and we're coming along, or we were heading down here, then we ended up in the ditch over there, and it's all I can remember, actually. Feel lucky I'm alive, yeah. It said missed us by about that much.
The bus eventually wedged itself in the skirting rails of the Black Creek Bridge. 5 passengers were taken to hospital with minor injuries. Police have yet to determine the exact cause of the accident, but charges may be laid when everyone involved has been interviewed.
It appears today the conditions, mainly rain and spray conditions from a truck in front, has caused a lack of visibility on the bus driver's part, but I can't say much more than that at this stage.
The driver of the bus was treated for shock, while the remaining passengers boarded a replacement coach and continued their journey. The road was eventually reopened just after 11 a.m. Bruce McKenzie, NBN News.
Tenders were called for the prime King Street site more than 6 weeks ago. The board had been tossing around the idea to sell last year, but that was hastened by the earthquake, which left the large brick structure severely damaged and forced the Fleet Operations Unit to move to Katara. Since then, the site has been used for garaging board vehicles. Advertisements have been appearing in the press nationwide since mid-April. Tenders closed at 2:30 today. Water Board Managing Director Paul Broad was overwhelmed by the response.
So everyone keeps saying that Newcastle is a bit depressed, and the interest showing in this development is such that it says that Newcastle is not depressed, but rather it's looking very positive for the future.
The board will consider 6 of the tenders very seriously. It's known one of them is from the Newcastle Workers Club, but the board would not name any of the others, although revealed all do have local ties. Discussions will be held with the parties concerned, with a submission expected to go before the board at its next meeting on June 21st. But while the future look of the prime King Street site is to be given plenty of thought, Water Board management will also have to spare some time to ponder its own image. A recent survey of the board's 1,200 employees came to the overwhelming conclusion that the hierarchy isn't held in the highest esteem. Employees were asked a total of 48 questions. A very definite theme emerged in those dealing with management. There was a strong us and them attitude, with workers commenting that management seemed to be lacking in communication skills. They also clearly believed there was one set of rules for management and another for the rank and file.
Management was seen as a bogeyman, and I suppose that's fairly typical of most organisations, and the surprising thing in ours was the strength of feeling. So I've got to get myself out, which I have been doing. The people around me have got to get out and talk to our workers.
It was the first such survey ever conducted by the Water Board, and Paul Broad said he's glad he did it. He said there was a bit of a shake-up for management, but there was also plenty of positive aspects. In all, employees clearly had a good view of themselves and their skills. The board will follow up the survey with another in 12 months' time.
More than 1,500 ironworkers gathered in Mayfield's Dangar Park today to hear a progress report on their union's efforts to restructure their bonus system. For the past 11 months, workers have been pushing to have their entire bonus payment included in their hourly rate. As yet, no headway has been made, and their impatience was obvious.
Forget about your bonus, let's go for a rise, a big rise, and fight for the damn thing. Go on strike today, till 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
The move to strike was narrowly defeated, with the majority preferring to send their delegates back to the negotiating table. It could be the last time they resist the temptation to wage a full-scale industrial campaign.
The BHP have got the pressure on them, and hopefully they will be able to see from the events of this morning that it is an important issue, and it is an issue that the men want resolved satisfactorily in their favour.
But the company is giving no assurances. BHP says the issue is still being negotiated at a national level, and any comment at this stage would be inappropriate. Bruce McKenzie, NBN News.
Triple J FM began in Sydney 15 years ago as an innovative alternative to mainstream radio aimed at 15 to 25-year-olds. Over the years, the station has developed into a forum for more than just music. Programming includes news and current affairs with a concentration on youth issues. It also has several popular comedy programs which have earned cult followings among its listeners. As part of a national network expansion, the station will begin broadcasting in Newcastle on the 29th of July.
Well, it's a different style of radio altogether. It's not commercial, it's totally non-commercial. It's not classic hits and it's not chart-driven radio. So we play music from all over the globe.
The station has a policy of promoting new Australian music and will give up-and-coming local bands exposure to a national audience.
We can take a Newcastle band and put it across the network, so listeners in Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, wherever, are going to hear bands from Newcastle, and I think that'll be a big step.
The King of Newcastle and indeed Australian industry had a vice-regal reception for the birthday celebrations. On this day, 75 years ago, Governor-General Sir Donald Munro Ferguson opened the Newcastle plant. Today, Governor-General Bill Hayden noted 3/4 of a century of steelmaking. The Steelworks was set up in 1915. During the war years, iron and steel were difficult commodities to import, and the Newcastle works were flushed with business. The BHP has become synonymous with Newcastle. In its peak years in the late 70s, it employed more than 11,000 people. The steel crash in 1982 cut that number in half. Today, 5,300 people are on the staff.
Over the past 75 years, we have been successful in producing steel, in surviving hard times, in using new technology to produce better products.
With the official talks aside, more than 100 VIP guests hosted the steel giant as it moved into its diamond anniversary. Peter Ryan, NBN News. The Hunter Community Forum says the Greiner government's interest in Newcastle's CBD is a con job.
We're quite clear that the intention to remove the rail line is a land grab. It's about removing the railway line so that you can sell off the land.
The rail link from Civic to Newcastle station has been the subject of study and debate for more than 18 months. A government steering committee has called for the line to be terminated, opening the area to business and recreation ventures. It claims it would be a boost for the CBD. The protesters disagree.
If this is the part of town that we're trying to revitalise, then obviously we want to keep the best public transport system we've got.
About 400 people listened to the Railway Blues at today's demonstration. While the rally organisers said they were pleased with the turnout, they also admitted more than 20,000 invitations had been sent out. Newcastle Council is yet to decide on its stance on the rail link. That's planned for late June. A definite reply from the state government is expected soon after.
A very, very hard game between two very, very talented sides.
It was a hard game, Mike. Yeah, it was played, particularly the first 15 to 20 minutes, was a bit like grade stuff. It wasn't just 18, 17-year-old boys running around out there. It was pretty solid stuff, and they played it in the best of spirit. And I thought Newcastle are a very well-drilled side, and they've all year been the undefeated side, and they went out as favourites, and they performed quite well. By the same token, if I can say so, very, very proud of my boys. We put ourselves under a bit of pressure, but we stuck to our guns, and I think it's a sign of the times for Manly as far as the juniors are concerned, and a lot of credit goes to our coaching staff and management, and I'm very pleased with their efforts, mate.
What did you think about the all-round performance of the boys?
Well, it's a little different from first grade and from grade football, but they're very enthusiastic. You know, I can't remember playing on 17 football being that quick and that hard. They've got quite a few experienced boys in the team. They do play in the under 21 grade, a couple of the boys, so they have got experience. They've got speed, and obviously they're well coached. I thought it was a great game, and our boys, really did play as a team.
Just yesterday, 75-year-old former dockside worker David Strachan and his wife Frida, 69, admitted they were doing it tough. Pensioners, they sold their small car recently to pay the mounting wad of bills. So when Frida brought home the first of her 3 Angel One tickets from the Commonwealth Bank in Stockton a few weeks ago, she admits she would have been happy just to come in second best.
I thought it'd be nice to win a car, but this is great.
Now, how much hope were you pinning on it at the time when you bought it?
Oh, I thought we should win.
But fate and the hand of State Health Minister Peter Collins saw that for the Strachans, only the best would do.
And the number is?
The winner is 05402.
That's 05402.
Who was watching?
Me.
Yes, David's watching.
And what did you do?
He woke me up.
Didn't believe my eyes.
Yes. I think about 5 minutes after the phone started ringing, then it was ringing for about an hour with different people.
Still a little stunned today, they were taken to see their new block by Lakeland's estate manager David Gray. Valued at $60,000, the block also comes with a $15,000 swimming pool. But while the Strachans were the big winners, so too was the Hunters Helicopter Rescue Service. The final tally from the Art Union, an amazing $421,076.
The final total was $421,076, firmly implanted in my mind.
That was about what you were hoping for?
Well, we were hoping for 400,000. As I said about 5 weeks ago, we were despairing of getting anywhere near that, but we went over it by 20,000. It's just another remarkable effort from the people of this region.
Witnesses say they saw the motorcycle travelling at high speed overtake several cars before colliding with the tail end of a Volvo sedan, turning right across a busy intersection. The 750cc Yamaha then slid almost 100 metres, colliding with parked cars and showering debris along the road. Its pillion passenger was catapulted into the air.
He was probably doing about 160, probably approaching 160 kilometres an hour, and all of a sudden I thought his engine blew up. And I noticed that was a bit much for his engine because there was a lot of smoke flying and the bike ended up leaving him. They were both airborne and the bike was with them all the way.
A family travelling in the Volvo were treated for shock and minor injuries at the scene. One motorcyclist suffered suspected internal injuries and fractures, while the other had multiple lacerations. One of the riders was wearing shorts. They were both taken to the Royal Newcastle Hospital by ambulance paramedics. Police closed off Derby Street between Parkway Avenue and Took Street to investigate the cause of the crash.
Picture this warehouse with the latest sound, light and video technology, a top Sydney DJ and guest appearances from the likes of Johnny Diesel, Kate Sobrano and Midnight Oil, and you have the combination promoter Ted Bennett hopes will attract up to 3,000 teenagers. While licensed premises abound in Newcastle, there's little alcohol-free entertainment. Promoters have seized on the void and are organising a series of under-18 dance parties. Western Suburbs Leagues Club is staging a fortnightly event, but the more ambitious scheme lies with the Elders Woolshed. Plans to redevelop the site to meet legal requirements for an entertainment venue will go to Newcastle Council tonight. Like the already successful blue light discos, strict rules will be enforced.
Of course, it'll be an under-18s venue. The second thing is that there will be no smoking, no alcohol and no drugs, and that will be strictly policed.
And news of another alcohol-free initiative today with a $250,000 grant to set up a new youth centre in the heart of Newcastle. A site is yet to be finalised, but the complex will provide young people with entertainment, education, drama, craft and counselling.
I think for a certain group of young people we need to be a little bit more creative and bear in mind that they're not always terribly literate and address that in different ways.
So this will keep kids off the street?
Well, I'm hoping it will keep kids off the street. Certainly they've been involved with the planning process and a lot of them are very excited by the concept of having such a centre in their own area. So we're hoping that it can be quite successful in that way.